The Dauntless. This really isn't the time for that, is the first thing Linda can say when Barnabas informs her about one of the main thrusts of the meeting he just had. Maybe not, but do you honestly expect my stalker to simply stop because we're busy? A Takra. No, I don't expect that from a Takra at all. Linda sighs and Barnabas shrugs. Then there's not much we can do, he says with a shrug. No. What can be done is that you get the meet and greet out of the way with her and calm the Takra down before we have to get to work, Linda says, and Barnabas gives her an odd look. What? Nothing, he remarks. But first I think we should get you back to your apartment so you can get into your own clothing and get ready the rest of the day. We still have more investigation to do. That was not a real word. Did you understand it? You deliberately mangled a word. That I did, you still understood me though. Only because the sentence was in context. Good. Use that skill for those like me and my fellows and you'll have an easy time with humans. Did you just turn a bad joke into a lesson on your species? That I did. Is there a problem? He asks, and she sighs. Just remember which one of us is the investigator in training and which one has full accreditation, she says, and he chuckles. Oh, don't worry. Now, have you had enough to eat? I had enough to eat a half hour ago. I've been studying the madness ever since. She answers him and he looks over the room. A good chunk of the nerd squad are here and a fair few of them have their alien girlfriends and are showing off some kind of axiom tricks. So, how different is my axiom presence compared to theirs? He asks and she frowns as she scans the room again. How to say this politely? She trails off. Just say it. He tells her and she draws herself up. At first I thought you were completely insane compared to the rest, she says, and he mimes flinching back and away from a blow. Then I looked deeper. And what did you see? There's a divide among you humans. Those with more axiom control touch it lighter and lighter, the ones over there. She points towards the nerd squad members all chatting together, and a few of them are volleying a fireball around. Then they get their meal interrupted by another soldier suddenly spraying them and the fireball down with an extinguisher and then sprinting clear out of the mess hall as angry shouts and gales of laughter follow them out. That was playful and friendly, and most of the outrage was tinged with amusement. So what you're saying that it's because I'm not too good with axiom that I look so scary when I pull it in. You pull it in too deep and show everything, not just the surface things I normally see, she says and frowns. Even your brains are built differently, but not unreasonably. Of course you'd have a hard time evolving without axiom to smooth things out. Of course you have problems and issues. Like looking into a cracked mirror with us humans, isn't it? Barnabas teases, and she sighs before nodding. Yay, how would my kind have evolved if every day was a struggle? Scary stuff, she says. Apex threats. Not threats anymore. A silence passes between the two of them and she sighs. All right, that's my fill of melancholy for the week. Let's get moving. And just like that, she leaves the mess hall and then has to stop and let Barnabas take the lead as she not only does not know her way around the ship, but also doesn't know where in the ship his car is parked. He leads her down a level and into a large docking bay where hundreds of vehicles are in parked locations. A sort of second and third story have been slapped together to really give things space, especially as almost all the vehicles are capable of flight and hovering. His is on the third level and a fair way in. Oh wow, what a piece of junk, Linda notes as he begins a quick bomb check on the engines and undercarriage of the vehicle. What's wrong with it? He asks as he slides the hood back into place and then locks it down. Aside from the hideous paint job that looks like it came out of a demolition race, the fact that you've welded massive chunks of metal to this and numerous shield emitters for one, it's an old and ugly old model to begin with. The boxy everything fad was short-lived and didn't die fast enough. Hey, this crate may not be pretty, but you'll need dedicated weapon systems or a starfighter to bring it out of the sky. The only reason this puppy isn't classified as an armored personnel carrier is that it can only sit 5 people and some luggage. Throw Semtex bombs on this baby and you'll at most scratch the paint and chip the windows. So what you're saying is that this monstrosity is a cannon away from being capable of fighting smaller starfighters? It's capable now. Ramming is always an option, he says, opening the front door and swinging in. Oh, that's encouraging. Just what a girl wants to hear when sitting in the passenger seat, she says, entering the vehicle itself, and he chuckles as the thing comes to life, and he easily guides it out of the Dauntless and then merges easily with traffic. Also, I never gave you my address. You didn't. I'm heading to the station, and from there you can tell me where to go. He answers simply, and she nods. Marlentine Spire, 43rd level, the Galvanix building. Land on the 4th pad from the top. She tells him, and he nods as he taps the general directions into the navigation unit in the air car. The ride is smooth, and he starts humming around to fill the silence as Linda doesn't bother with small talk. Marlentine Spire has its lights on low to keep things more in an evening to twilight aesthetic. There are also vines creeping up and down the buildings with night-blooming flowers all over them. The dark green and purple of the place is nothing short of beautiful, and Barnabas actually slows down so he has time to look around as he enters the Spire's airspace and taking the scenic route. Thinking of renting? Maybe. I've had my head in either PT or books and haven't had much of a chance to look around and explore. He answers as they approach the Galvanix building and finds the landing pad. It's covered in nocturnal flowers. Who maintains all this? There's an entire community that keeps all this going. Hundreds of women, sometimes thousands, make sure all these wonderful little plants are watered and well tended, she says as they land, and she jumps out almost happily. Seeing him react like that, react so normally she can almost picture a more normal aura around him. He first puts the car into park and then casually pops out a few small components and pockets them. What did you just do? Electronic keys and bioscanners are nice, but with a few necessary components just gone, there's no stealing this car without picking it up and walking off, Barnabas says with a grin. Which is a possibility. Linda counters and he chuckles. True enough, but there's only so much you can do to protect something. Although I have heard rumors about someone trying to make self-shrinking vehicles we can just pick up and pocketing them. Which means you have to watch out for pickpockets instead of carjackers. She chides him, and he nods. That is one of the issues brought up. He admits as she now leads the way and then brings him up a floor to her apartment. I'll be finished in a few minutes, she tells him, and he nods, and she all but dashes into her apartment. He leans against the wall next to the door and scans the hallway. Off-white walls and a matching carpet with a dark purple rug that also has small mats in front of each door. There are slight bumps in several of them to suggest someone's hidden something, likely keys or the like, under the mats. He also notices a series of footsteps that look almost barefoot with distinct little claws at the tips. They move over to him and he makes a point of inhaling as this invisible force passes near him. There's a slightly flower smell, but there's also the scent of warm flesh and clothing and metal and plastic and cloth. He makes a point of not tracking it with his eyes, looking the other way as he listens hard and hears the figure suddenly turn around and then almost silently lean up against the wall next to him and out of his vision. Then he spins around and his hands are surrounding the smaller woman and glaring down at her. Meow! You humanmans are assertive. I like it. Vera Arlitos purrs up at him as she grabs his wrists and starts letting out a literal purr. What the? Linda demands, charging out and then stopping as she sees them. Go away, Tret girl. We need adult time, Vera says, pulling up her legs and hanging off Barnabas's wrists to demonstrate just how light she is. Her legs snap out and wrap around his waist. You're in public, Linda snaps. Things can be fun with an audience. I'm on the job. Until the bomb threat is clear, I'm only having that kind of fun on the Dauntless. Entry is invite only, Barnabas says calmly as he then breaks her grips around his wrists. She just shifts her grip to his lapel and pulls herself up close. Oh, just a few little bangs won't stop me from getting banged. Vera purrs and Barnabas reaches around to his back and starts to slowly pry open her legs to try and get her off. Oh, so exertion can make you give out that wonderful man musk. Lady, this is not the time. Then when is it? She asks petulantly and angrily as Linda groans in frustration and dips back into her apartment. He forces her off him and then pries off her hands from his lapel before holding her up a little and pressing her against the wall. Look, I'm flattered and I'm on board, but now is not the time. Wait, you're on board? Does that mean you want me? That you think a takra is a sexy little... He cuts her off with a kiss to the lips, and she moans into it even as her tongue wraps around his to try and pull him in as much as she can. His grip shifts and he goes from holding her up by the wrists to lifting her up by the bottom. He gives it a squeeze as well before pulling away. I know what you want, what the Arlie toss seeks. You want the strongest blood, the greatest warrior. That's fine, but understand that any child of mine has me in their life. Really? She begins panting before leaning into his chest, then leaning back. Wait, you know? How? We have spies, good ones. You want my children, you have to take me as well. Oh no, don't take the ultimate treasure without the whole museum around it, she teases. No, don't take just the prime bull of the herd, take the whole thing. Yes, I am basically threatening you with a good time, he admits as her sarcasm bounces off him. If this is how you human-mans are going to be dealing with the takra, we're going to be the best of friends. Great, look, I don't want to be the asshole here, but I am all but officially on the clock. I'm investigating a bomb threat, and well-trained or not, you're still legally a civilian and I can't bring you with me as I aid in the investigations. Why not? Reckless endangerment of civilians is a pretty harsh offense and is taken dead seriously. Civilian? Do I look like a civilian? You look like a themed porn star. What? She demands. Her grip suddenly turns aggressive as she picks him up to hold well over her head, and Barnabas just grins. Then Linda once again rushes out of her apartment, this time with a strange-looking pistol. Really? A stun pistol? Vera's tone is mocking and dismissive even as Barnabas quickly judges a few distances. Put the human down, Linda orders. She's in her full outfit, which is a brown jacket over a black shirt. The jacket is too small to close and is clearly just an accent with some pockets and a place to hang her badge. Also, she apparently really took a liking to the yoga pants as the pistol holster is on her left thigh. I'm fine, Linda. Just testing the boundaries, Barnabas says unconcerned. He has a plan. She's angry. Hurt you levels of angry, Linda warns him as Vera growls. That makes this even easier, Barnabas notes and then suddenly kicks Vera in the throat. Her grip is gone, and before he's even half done dropping, he's grabbed her and pinned her to the floor. What? You... Vera's protest is cut off by her coughing. Lesson 1. You chase me down because I'm a warrior. That means you can expect a warrior's reaction. Threats? Those are answered to eagerly, he says, grinding her down into the carpet, and her form starts to distort. Violence? He slams the top of his head into the back of hers with axiom running through him. Her form shifting just stops as she hits the floor and then groans. He stunned her. Learn to take a compliment, even if it's crude, little girl, he says, and there's a slight purring sound from the takra. Oh, did I ever make the right choice?